Hey everybody, Clay Archer, CEO DBC Technology, and I've got a great one today. Today we're going to cover the new Cloud Gateway Industrial. So anytime I get a new UCG device, I'm super excited and I want to figure out where it fits in the lineup. And this is a very unique device. I think you'll be surprised at how versatile it is, and I think it may make sense for more people than you think. First off, this is part of a new industrial initiative for UniFi, where they're going to have some of these fanless, more rugged devices that you can put in kind of any environment. But that's not the whole story of this device, and I think there's some features in here that might appeal to a wider base. So anyways, let's jump right in, get it unboxed, and show you the device itself. All right, so it comes with the same beautiful UniFi packaging we've all grown to love. Inside the box, you'll find the device itself, and you'll find a power supply. If you've seen the Pro Max 16 PoE, it's that same kind of power brick with a power cable. There's also a rack mount accessory that's very similar to that Pro Max 16's rack mount. I'll show you here in a second. But on the device itself, you'll see that there is a micro SD slot. There are 2 SIM slots, and there are 4 2.5 gigabit RJ45 ports. 2 of those are PoE+++, and 2 of those are PoE+. There's also a 10 gigabit PoE+++ RJ45 port. That's pretty awesome. And a 10 gigabit SFP Plus WAN port. There's also a 4-pin DC power socket and a 54-volt DC power input for the included power supply. There's also a little recess to reset button. On the other side, there's 2 Wi-Fi antennas. It comes with the 2 stubby ones attached. There are also 2 large omnidirectional antennas that are included in the packaging. The device itself is a black anodized metal with a built-in heatsink. There are no fans in this device. It is a very, very rugged design and obviously earns the industrial name. There is a neat little button feature where you push the button and these 2 handles will slide off if you don't need them. It's also where the rack mount accessory slides right in. If you ever use the Pro Max 16 PoE, that rack adapter needed screws to kind of screw it in, like typical rack ears. On this one, they both slide in with this kind of rail and button system. It's a neat little piece of industrial design. It's really cool and works really well. Also in the box, besides the other 2 antennas, you get a little back plate to mount the power supply up, you get all the hardware to mount it, and you get a little leveling kit. Onto the rack mounting kit, same beautiful packaging, and if you've seen the Pro Max 16 rack mount kit, very similar. You put the power supply in a little box that contains it, and on the other side, there's just a rack ear. But on this one, as opposed to the Pro Max 16 using screws, it attaches with that rail and button system that's on the device itself. Really nicely done, really nice addition. If you do want to throw this in the rack, super easy to do. And because all the connectivity is on the front of the unit, rack mounting this unit kind of makes a lot of sense. So with that, I went ahead and connected it to the network, fired it up, and then went into the mobile app. So it couldn't find my internet connection right out of the gate. I needed to reset my internet modem. As soon as the modem restarted, it prompted me to name the UCG and to give it an SSID name for the Wi-Fi setup. I then put in a password for the Wi-Fi, did a quick speed test, and then the device automatically set itself up. After a few minutes, it was all set up and I went to the computer to finish my configuration. So I've been playing with the UCG Industrial for a few days now. We're running it at my house. And my first thoughts are this acts very, very similar to a UCG Fiber. So really quickly, I want to jump on store.ui.com and go through how it's similar to the UCG Fiber and how it differentiates from the UCG Fiber. First of all, I want to say that comparing it to the UCG Fiber is a big compliment in my book. I really like the UCG Fiber, and them using that platform for kind of the underlying gateway here, I think is a smart move on their part. But anyways, let's jump in real quick here, and I'm going to show you where it's different and where it's the same. Unfortunately, I can't click compare right now. Typically, I would go in here and I would click the compare button and compare this to some other devices. But because this is not on store.ui.com, I can't do it that way. But if you are looking for this device, I would encourage you to use the compare button and see where it is similar and where it is different. Right off the bat, you'll see that it's bigger than the UCG Fiber, and that should come as no surprise. Because it's fanless, it has that bigger heatsink in the device itself. But from there, it gets very similar. It runs the same full suite of software. The managed device count is the same. The number of cameras that it can handle is the same. The UCG Fiber can do 1 more WAN port channel because it just has 1 more port, and it has 2 10 gigabit SFP Plus ports. But the big differentiator right off the bat is the power budget for the UCG Industrial. So on the 2.5 gigabit RJ45 ports, 2 of them are PoE++, and 2 of them are PoE+. And the 10 gigabit RJ45 port is PoE+++. And I want to stress how cool this is. I've had some time with the enterprise campus switches, and they come PoE+++. And I've been deploying the Flex 2.5G PoE devices. What's so cool about these being PoE+++, if you connect one of those Flex 2.5 PoE devices, you're going to get PoE++ downstream, which is amazing because you won't need power where those devices are, and you still can run plus plus to the devices downstream from them. It's perfect for cameras and phones and anything that has a power draw to it. Really a great cheat code. And having used the enterprise campus switches for a little while, it is a huge cheat code for not having to have power in remote locations. So the power budget here is outstanding. Another thing that Ubiquiti mentions for these PoE+++ ports is that you're going to be able to power multiple low Earth orbit satellite terminals with this device. Now, I don't have any experience with low Earth orbit satellites such as Starlink and the like, but I'm assuming that being able to power them over PoE is going to really simplify that kind of installation. Now, I would do a little bit more research on that and make sure whatever third-party device you're using there is going to be able to be powered, but it is nice to be able to have that budget here. But if we move on past the power distribution, noticeable difference is the MAC address table size is smaller for the UCG Industrial. But other than that, reading through the specs, they're very similar devices. And that brings us to the next major difference. And I think this may appeal to a lot of folks, is the integrated Wi-Fi in this system. The elephant in the room is that there is no 6 gigahertz on this Wi-Fi setup. Obviously, for most industrial use cases, they're not looking for 6 gigahertz performance. And for most, 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz are more than enough. But if you're looking for an all-in-one UCG fiber with Wi-Fi built in, this might be a good solution if you don't need that 6 gigahertz speed. And let's be honest, most people aren't using a ton of 6 gigahertz gear at this point. So that's food for thought. And let's move on to the next major difference. And that's the fact that the UCG Fiber uses an NVMe storage and the UCG Industrial uses a micro SD card. Like I mentioned before, they both have the same capacity for cameras using Protect, but one is going to use an NVMe and one is going to use micro SD. Right now, you can get a 1 terabyte micro SD card for about $150. And I think that's more than enough for most people to power 4 or 5 cameras, which I think is the ideal use case for both the UCG Fiber and the UCG Industrial. You are making a bit of a concession there, but I don't think it's a big concession. And the next major difference you're going to see is that there are 2 SIM card slots in the front of the UCG Industrial. And this is a really cool feature. Let's say you have a UniFi 5G outdoor up on a pole to get the best 5G cellular signal that you can get. If you have to change that SIM card, you have to climb a pole and do whatever changes you're going to do. This device lets you remotely put that SIM card in the front of the UCG Industrial instead of having to get to wherever the 5G outdoor is. So that's kind of a neat feature, and it kind of lends to the fact that this device is meant to be put anywhere in any conditions, and probably would run off of a low Earth orbit satellite or a 5G kind of network environment. That's a really cool, nice kind of convenience feature to have. And the last major difference, and this is a major difference and one of the core features of the UCG Industrial, is the ambient operating temperature of the UCG Fiber is 0 to 40 degrees Celsius or 32 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. On the UCG Industrial, it is a whopping negative 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, meaning negative 22 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning you can put this device pretty much anywhere and it is going to survive, which is really cool. And ultimately, that brings me back to what are my use case scenarios for this device. Playing around with it for a few days, it really has run really well for me on my network. It operates just like my UCG Fiber that I put there. The Wi-Fi has been great. I've got a relatively small condo, so testing that's really difficult. I wish I was able to test it with a low Earth orbit satellite, but you'll even see in the desktop here, the 3 WAN connections here. It's intended for an area where you are going to have a Starlink in a 5G connection, and you are going to be in a kind of a remote area. But that being said, I'm not sure that that's the only place that I would put this. So where would I put this? Obviously, for me and my client base, I can see a construction company really liking this. So you could take this device to a job site, have your mobile office, have multiple cameras on it, be able to serve multiple people. You could run it with Starlink. You could run it off 5G. Whatever connectivity you have, this is really baked into it. I can also see this for a remote industrial building, or any industrial building for that matter, where you have to deal with extremes of temperature. You want the device to be pretty rugged, but you also wanted to have a full suite of all the things that are available in the UniFi ecosystem. I can also see this being used in a cabin or a cottage or a farm/barn somewhere where you're out somewhere remote. You're going to use 5G or low Earth orbit satellites, and you want the entire UniFi ecosystem in one rugged device. So in all those use cases I just mentioned, we're having an all-in-one rugged device with a huge power budget, multiple connectivity options. It's going to be very attractive. And as I record this device is going to be $579. I think all of the items I mentioned in the extreme thermal range that this can operate in kind of justifies that premium that you're going to pay over UCG Fiber, which is only $279. But the more I think about it, having the included Wi-Fi and having the big power budget may make this appeal to more people, especially if you're going to put this device in a basement or in a garage where it gets hot and there's extremes. This may fit more in these industrial or commercial or remote places. I can see a use case where buying this versus buying a separate WAP and a separate switch to deliver that kind of PoE is appealing to some people. The reality is that running Cat6 cable in your house is a lot easier than running Cat6 to a location where you then need power as well. And for some people, the ability to have these remote flex switches that are powered by this device by itself, I think is going to be pretty appealing. And I think that they're going to sell more of these than you think. Also, the device is very flexible in the way you can mount it. You can mount it to a wall, you can mount it under a desk, you can mount it on a desk, you could leave the handles on, you could take the handles off, you can mount it in a rack. I think there's a little bit of flexibility there too. And it's completely quiet because it's fanless. So I suspect this is going to be a little bit more popular than the industrial name suggests. But I don't know. What do you think about this device, and where does it fit in the lineup of gateways? Is it appealing to you? Does it not make sense to you at all? Please put your comments down below. And as always, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next video.